Hello my friends, let's start this one from the front lines update because there are some of the great news happening in the Sumy region. You see that Ukraine takes more ground. I'm always happy to see blue areas out there in new military map updates. Well, we have the confirmation about the Ukrainian army presence here, mostly filmed by the Russian drones. So Russians tried to repel Ukrainian attack, but so far it's not effective. Ukrainian soldiers jammed Russians into this lake and Russians were forced to swim across it. Yeah, they were running away to the hills and to the local villages of Konstantinovka, which is, by the way, going to be the next one for Ukraine to liberate. And if you check out this report, you'll see that Russians definitely tried to hit Ukrainians. There are Russian forces from 11th Tank Regiment attack Ukrainian positions near Kindrativka Reservoir with Molnia 2 drones, but that is how we know the confirmation that our guys are being deployed here in this tree line. Yeah, I found the original video. It's called, yeah, you see, Orc Time somehow. And they just show how they put the drones into this tree line. Nothing specific was hit there. Yeah, I tried to search for more information, but it seems like there is nothing moving out there. They just hit this tree line, allegedly with the Ukrainian army. And also I have the same reports from another channels that Russians definitely were forced to leave this place, crossing the lake into even Russian territory. So in general, I would say yes, the situation is like that. Ukraine gained the ground, pushing Russians out from the place. Really good achievement. In Alexivka here, Ukraine also has success pushing Russians out, but here you can see the Russian attack vector. Do they really think that they can retake Alexivka after they lost the initiative entirely in this part of the front lines? I mean, in Sumy region in general? Well, it's unrealistic, they just pour more meat to the grinder. So in general, guys, the Sumy operation is definitely fantastic, but we have some of the even bigger news coming from the Pokrovsk direction. Because Russian military bloggers themselves describe the situation for the Russian army out there as a catastrophic one, and that their forces have already been trapped by Ukrainians. Yeah, on the map we may see some of the red lines connecting, for example, Pankivka and Boykivka, but in reality those do not exist. Why? Well, basically Ukraine cut all of the supplies with the help of the drones. So the presence of the infantry forces is pretty much not needed. Yeah, if you're capable to cut those supplies with the help of the not just drones, I would say, but with the help of the mortars, artillery, and sometimes even rifles, because this distance is very short, not more than 1 kilometer here. Yeah, if we check out this map in particular, I guess it's even less than a kilometer, and Ukraine recently advanced over here. Ukraine uses drones to cut logistics in this place, and it's not an easy way for Russians to supply their forces. First of all, because of the geographical reasons. You see, this river here, it also creates the elevation uphill, downhill of the terrain. Plus, there are not many tree lines, so it's open area environment for Ukrainian drone operators to navigate their drones and to hit Russian, not just infantry, but Russian supplies. I hope that the Russians didn't bring their donkeys here, because I don't like them suffering. So basically, we have 3 of the main areas where Russians are being encircled. First in Kucherev Yar, then over here there is no particular village in this place. Russians were trapped between Novoshakhove and Mayak. They even tried to counterattack Ukrainian army here, but without any sort of the visible success. And the most important encirclement is over here. This is the bullseye for Ukrainian army, absolutely, because here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 villages, a very dense area where Russians tried to go to Rodinsk, and that is how they wanted to encircle Mirnograd, but it seems like it doesn't work for Russia any longer. Moreover, Russians basically trapped themselves. It means that their attack operation towards Zoloty Kolodets over here was not organized properly. It was like lucky shot that after all was not so lucky and backfired kind of hard. And I'm very happy that Ukraine was capable to handle this operation in such a precise manner. You know, it wasn't the rush actually from our guys, little by little taking the ground from the Russian army. Our guys used as many drones as possible, and finally we see the result. It's just awesome. I don't have words to describe this operation, guys. It was the greatest success of Ukrainian army for the last several months, I would say. And you see, Ukraine doesn't hesitate to use even aviation strikes in this place. Let's check out this source. I want to check out, oh wow, this is the huge building here. We have even a video of Ukrainian strike. Yeah, it was a big kaboom. Obviously actually Russians hidden something in this big building. It's some sort of the big industrial plant with some of the underground rooms, I guess. Well, the aviation bombs are the proper tools to act here. Thanks for our allies for supplying aviation gliding bombs for Ukrainian Air Force. They rule. So yeah, geolocated, confirmed by Ocean Analytics. That's why I like to review the map from the Myco Sense 3, because we have those kind of the confirmations. So by clicking every sort of the image, you may check out the link for original information, which is placed on this map, yeah? Well, to be fully real about this situation in the Pokrovsk, Russians, after all, they have Joker in the sleeve, because they accumulate lots of the forces not far away from Donetsk. Yeah, Ukraine does some of the aviation strikes there on positions of the Russian army. Those are quite risky because our planes are going very close to the front lines to drop aviation gliding bombs, but nevertheless, in many of the cases, those strikes are successful. But Russia, again, they have huge number of the forces waiting for the major signal to start the move towards Pokrovsk direction. It could be here, it could be here, it could be here, it could be simultaneously from multiple of the directions, but I believe that it might happen. How successful it could be? Well, in my videos I say I don't believe that after all they will manage to break Ukrainian defense line over here. It's not possible under current conditions. Also, the weather is already not that great for those kind of the operations, but we'll see. I think that after all they'll start this maneuver. We heard this information also from even the Ukrainian President Zelensky that Russia is preparing for the major jump. There was also an interview recorded today with Belarus potato dictator Lukashenko, who says that Ukraine should accept the Russian demands, otherwise Russia will start something really huge, really big, as it was in 2022, or even worse. That's why I think that Russia is planning definitely something big. It could happen this autumn, very soon, in October, November, we'll see. Also, by the way, Lukashenko said that Oreshnik has arrived to Belarus. Now they have this huge ballistic missile capable to deliver some of the nuclear warheads. Wow, that's serious. But actually Russia could launch it from its own territory with a similar range. Well, let's go to the front lines, because not just the great news out there, we have the situation in Konstantinivka, where recently Ukraine lost lots of the army vehicles and even tank. Yeah, Russians intensify their strikes, they're using drones, and they propel recently with the gray area expansion towards Konstantinivka itself, so they're very close from the settlement. Let's check out the information about Ukrainian vehicles. So we have military base hit, Vandal drones in Konstantinivka. This is the vehicle itself. What the hell is this? Well, maybe it's some sort of the MRAP. It was geolocated as Konstantinivka, this road. And the video from the Russian drone, some of the cars are out there. This is the pickup truck of Ukrainian army and this vehicle over here. I think it was hit before. You can see the fire here. It was abandoned, and it is the second drone which went to the car. It's very interesting that Ukraine is using those drones, ground drones, for supply deliveries, but here Russians, they hit it. From what I see, inside there was lots of the water, so it's not safe actually to operate with infantry forces in Konstantinivka any longer. The same way how Ukrainian army controls Russians in Pokrovsk, Dopropillya direction, Russians control Ukrainian supplies in Konstantinivka. But luckily Ukraine still has some of the connections out there, many of the supply lines in Konstantinivka. It's not been encircled yet, but Russians are throwing their drones, operating on the streets, in the buildings, elsewhere. And one more Ukrainian MRAP was hit. Unfortunately, it's the northern outskirts of Konstantinivka. Over here it happened, so Russians pretty much used their drones elsewhere in Konstantinivka. What's about Ukrainian tank? Yeah, there was the T-64 tank that again was hit by the drone. Yeah, sad. So guys, it's the brutal reality. The front lines, they simply do not exist any longer. Drones, aviation gliding bombs, they make everything pretty much chaotic. And the defense lines, I wouldn't say they're completely useless, but they're just used to stop Russian army vehicles. Infantry may penetrate those, and if you put your own infantry in defense, like in a trench, enemy drones may go to those trenches and check for your infantry, so there should be underground cover, absolutely. And that cover is absent for most of the trenches, for Ukrainian side and for the Russian one as well. It's the new stage of war where big assault actions are not pretty much possible because of the drone operations. Before, in 2023, there were many of the drones, yeah, but now they just overwhelm everything. It is simply not possible to break through defense, to attack successfully with one or maximum two strikes. That's why basically Russians demand for Ukraine to surrender this entire territory of Donbass. They're unable to get control over it with military efforts they have still, yeah. They cause losses for Ukrainian army, but they have more losses themselves. So you see, yeah, Russians operate in Konstantinovka, but Ukraine also operates behind the front lines in Toretsk and even more towards New York, that was occupied a long time ago. And how much Russians move here? By 5 or maybe 6 kilometers, losing thousands of people. Crazy. And still they accumulate the forces for major jump. It's gonna be a disaster for them. Alright guys, one more direction where it's kind of tricky for Ukrainian army. I have to say about the bad news as well, because I want to be really honest with you. So here Russians moved in Sreblanka. They want to encircle it. And I really wonder if Ukraine has some of the forces deployed out there, because potentially they could be even trapped. But I don't think that Ukraine actually has some of the forces left here. And after all, it's all a gray area for now. Well, Russians hit this vehicle. I believe I saw it before. Yeah, it's the Striker vehicle. Let's watch this one. Yeah, it's the Striker. Probably something happened to this vehicle. Our guys left it. Maybe it broke down, maybe stuck there. Well, Russians have to waste around 5 of the drones to eliminate the vehicle. It is crazy how robust this mesh defense really is. So it's the only way for now, only cheap way of how you can protect vehicles against the drone strikes. The Russian drone operator had to strike the specific spot 5 of the times to break through the mesh and cause the fire. So Ukraine needs absolutely more of those armored vehicles, especially Strikers. So likely we have some of the good news from the United States of America about this stuff. I already shared it on my channel. The United States Department of War has approved contracts for Ukraine to supply weapons for $200 million. So we have the final confirmation it's gonna be delivered. We are speaking M1117 infantry carrying vehicles, also M110 sniper rifles, plus the contract for the technical maintenance and support for Ukrainian Navy counter-UAV systems. Awesome. It all goes according to Ukrainian Security Assistance Initiative, so direct military support, which has been now not too much for Ukraine with the current White House administration, but still there is something. So $200 million, not billion, $1 million will be spent for this one, and sniper rifle is, I guess, this one, plus some of the anti-drone systems will be maintained, so not delivered but maintained. Probably Ukraine already has those. Yeah guys, I'm gonna speak with you about the situational update in Kupiansk city. It's very important for us, but at first I want to tell about those drones which cross the Ukrainian border in Transcarpathian region. So it's Solovka village and Hungary launched their drones according to Ukrainian officials, and even the Ukrainian president confirmed that. Another drone was flying very close to Uzhhorod city. This city is actually bordering Slovakia, but at the same time it's not far away from Hungary as well. Our military specialists, including our military signalman, they write, well, it's not a signalman, it's the guy who is guru in this anti-drone operation stuff, so he went to the Transcarpathian region and he says that definitely there were drones spotted flying from Hungarian side. Plus, he mentioned that earlier this summer some of the drones were detected in Mukachevo, it's also western Ukraine, and miraculously after that Russia performed its strike on Mukachevo facilities, including the United States established enterprise that has no connection to the military. And today officially Vladimir Zelensky, president of Ukraine, announced that Hungarian drones conducting reconnaissance operations in Ukrainian border areas. And Flash also confirmed that it's not a coincidence. Zelensky even warned that Ukraine's military will respond if provocations on Hungarian border continue. Zelensky ordered a detailed investigation and review of those cases, and if they appear again, military will react appropriately to defend the country. Zelensky mentioned about it after the conference with his generals and commanders. And what is the response from the Hungarian side? Well, Peter Szijjártó, who is the foreign minister of Hungary, said that President Zelensky is losing his mind to this anti-Hungarian obsession. He's now starting to see things that aren't there. Okay, we'll see. Probably they start to piss in their pants. I mean, Hungarian regime itself. Orban and Szijjártó, I think their party will lose the next elections, it's 100%. Their rating is down as hell. But nevertheless, Orban's regime continued to block European initiatives of Ukraine, including the possible membership of Ukraine in EU. Deutsche Welle says that Hungary is the only country opposing this membership, like really opposing. We're not gonna get them in. That's why negotiations about Ukrainian invitation into EU will start in 2026, spring 2026. Then there are going to be elections in Hungary. I guess after elections everything will be settled and Hungary will not oppose that decision because there will be no this guy in politics any longer. Well, at least not in power. Alright, now let's check out what happened in Kupiansk. Russians unfortunately expanded the gray area. It seems like Ukraine is in lack of the fire teams to compensate this Russian attack vector. Well, it happened because of the Ukrainian defense failed here. It's not because the Russians are getting stronger and mightier, but because Ukraine simply is in lack of the resources or the command sometimes is not that competent. So why Kupiansk city is so important? Because Ukraine potentially may lose this entire area. Yeah, there is the main supply line, this bridge, it's already unusable because the Russian army is damn close. Our guys cannot use this road to go in and to go out, it is already evident. So the large group of the Ukrainian army is located in this place, in all of those settlements, villages, small towns. Here is the Oskil river. It's not that wide honestly, but there are just a couple of the bridges which could be used for Ukrainians to leave the area. For example, this one and this one. Pretty much that's it. So if Russians bomb those bridges somehow with the help of the Iskanders or maybe gliding aviation bombs, which they continue to use elsewhere also in Kupiansk, well, in this case Ukraine will have to leave all of the heavy and not heavy equipment in this area and cross the river. I don't know on what, but somehow to cross it. Yeah, without any vehicles, without any tanks, without artillery systems. It's the big threat. Yeah, Russian army seems to be far away from this place, but connections, they matter. Supply lines, the wars of this scale, they're all about supply lines. So Russians knew about it, that's why they advanced to Kupiansk to cut the main supply line for Ukraine. For this reason, the defense of Kupiansk was and still is crucial for Ukrainian army in this place, but it seems like Ukrainian command was not that competent to protect the city. Again, maybe it's up to resources that Ukrainian army doesn't have at this moment. Our fire brigades are deployed elsewhere in Pokrovsk, Dopropillya direction, so maybe it's not enough competent forces for Ukraine to cut Russian army in Kupiansk, unfortunately. Yeah, kind of the sad news, but I have to tell the truth as it is. And I want to tell my special thanks for my Patreon supporters and members of the channel. Guys, thank you so much for maintaining my motivation to film more and more of the videos. You are just awesome. Yeah, in this video it is mostly the frontline update. I just wanted to give you detailed information, so I don't want to make this video really large, huge. That's why I'm gonna film one more just a little later today, I just hope. And thank you very much guys for watching my videos. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.